Okay, good morning. Today we're going to do midpoint. So we're just adding midpoint to the distance formula problems today. Midpoint, I think midpoint is a little bit easier, in my personal opinion. Okay, so midpoint, the definition of a midpoint, it's just a point in the middle of a segment. So if I have a segment, the midpoint is the point right in the middle. So if you're on a number line, basically you're just going to find the average of those two numbers. You're going to add those two numbers together and divide by 2. So do you guys have your assignment pulled up?
No.
So have your assignment pulled up. Go ahead and get it pulled up. Because number 1, you're just finding that midpoint. So all you do is just add the two numbers together and divide by 2. Do what?
How do you get to it? I'm on the calendar.
So today is Wednesday. Did you find it? Okay. So Emma, I don't know if you just want to write it down or whatever. Write the answers down. So number 1, if we want the midpoint of CE, what's the location of point C? Can you tell? -4. What's the location of E? 2. So you just add those two numbers together and divide by 2. So what's -4 plus 2?
-2.
-2 divided by 2? -1. You can get negative answers on midpoint. So distance or length, you only get positive answers. But on a midpoint, we're just finding the point that's in the middle. So the middle of CE will be at the location of -1. So it's okay to get negatives. So let's just do a couple more and then we'll move on. So what about DG? What's the location of D? Where's D? 0. Where's G? 8. Yeah, it's hard to see back there. 8. Add the two numbers together and divide by 2. So 0 plus 8 is 8. What's 8 divided by 2? 4. So that just means the middle of DG is at the location of 4. You also might get decimals. It's okay to get a 0.5. We can do, let's do one more. Just make sure you guys got it. What's the location of A?
9.
-9. What's the location of F?
3.
3. So -9 plus 3.
-6.
-6 divided by 2?
-3.
-3. It will be okay though to get a decimal, just FYI. Okay, do you feel okay about midpoint on a number line? Just add the numbers together, divide by 2. That's it. Add the numbers together, divide by 2.
Can we do all of them together?
No. You gotta practice some on your own. Okay. All right, so that is midpoint on a number line. Let's talk about on a coordinate plane. This is the midpoint formula on a coordinate plane. So really though, all you're doing is you're adding the x's together and dividing by 2, which is what we just did. But you also just have to add the y's together and divide by 2. The thing is you can't do it all at the same time on your calculator. You can't put a parenthesis and a comma in the middle. You just have to do one at a time. So to find the midpoint, I would just add my x's together, divide by 2, and then I would add my y's together and divide by 2. So let me show you. So say I want to find the midpoint of 2, -5 and 6, 13. So remember our points are x, y, x, y. So do them as 2 separate problems. You'll get 2 separate answers. So what are the x numbers? What are the x's?
2 and 6.
2 and 6. So I would do 2 plus 6 and divide by 2. So 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2. So that's going to be the first answer. And then you add the y's together. -5 plus 13, which is 8 again. What's 8 divided by 2? 4. So it's 4 and 4. Question. Yes.
Do we put 0.5 or can we just put 0.5?
I have it either way. You could do 0.5 or just 0.5. Good question. Okay, so do you guys see that you just do it 2 separate times? You just have to do the x's and then do the y's. So like this example, so negative 12 and 6 would be my x's, and then 8 and 12. Negative 12 and 6 would be my x's, 8 and 12 would be my y's. So I would do my x's first, negative 12 plus 6, and then divide by 2. What's negative 12 plus 6?
Negative 6.
And negative 6 divided by 2.
Negative 3.
And then I gotta do my y's, 8 plus 12. 8 plus 12, 20. 20 divided by 2?
10.
10. So you'll just do them, separate. So, if you look at number 2, do you see how I have a blank for each answer? So you have to do it separate. So like, let's look at number 2, the first one. So remember your points are x comma y, x comma y. So to get the x's, just add the x numbers together. What's 0 plus 12? 0 plus 12?
I don't know.
What's 12 divided by 2?
6.
Don't forget the dividing by 2 part. That's a common mistake, to accidentally forget to divide by 2. And then you do the y. 0 plus 8, which is 8, divide by 2, which is 4. So you'll put 6 in the first blank and 4 in the second blank. So add the x's together, divide by 2, then add the y's together, divide by 2. Are you guys okay with that? Okay. Is it easier than distance formula?
Yeah.
Okay, I think so too. You just have to do them separate. Go to number 3 really quick, because I just want to show you how to type it in so you don't get it counted wrong. So number 3. So I'm still doing the midpoint. Here's my x and y, x and y. So I'll start with the x's, add the x's together. What's 4 plus negative 2?
2.
2. What's 2 divided by 2?
1.
1. Okay, so how you're going to type it in, you'll do a left parenthesis. You have to do a parenthesis. It'll count it wrong. And you'll do 1, comma. Don't put any spaces. No spaces. So parenthesis, 1, comma, and then we have to figure out the y's. So y's, I'm going to add my y's. 7 plus 5. What's 7 plus 5?
12.
Divided by 2?
6.
6. So don't put any spaces. Just parenthesis, 1, comma, 6, parenthesis. Don't forget the parentheses, it'll count it wrong. Okay, so far we're just adding x's together, divide by 2, adding y's together, divide by 2. Okay, one more type of problem. Just one more type. What do we do if we're given a midpoint and an endpoint, and we have to find the other endpoint? So, like for example, it says the midpoint of DG is negative 1, 5. So I'm just going to graph this over here so you can kind of visualize it. So negative 1, comma 5, so I go to the left 1 and up 5. So that is my midpoint, my point that's in the middle. And then it says one endpoint is 1, comma 4, over 1, up 4. So this would be my endpoint. This is a midpoint. So I have to figure out where the other endpoint is. So if this point's in the middle, do you agree that the other endpoint would be over here somewhere? So you could do it by graphing if you want. I could count, okay, well I would have to rise 1 and go to the left 2. So I would end up having to rise 1 and go to the left 2. My new location would be at negative 3, comma 6. I'm also going to show you how to do it so you don't have to graph it each time. Okay? You guys want to know how to do it?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you algebraically. Do you love algebra?
Nope.
No. Okay, well I'm going to show you algebraically, but then I'm going to show you a little shortcut. Okay, so midpoint formula. So if I have x midpoint, y midpoint, that always equals x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So the thing is, we know the midpoint, so I'm only going to start with my x's first. I know the midpoint, so here's x comma y, x comma y. So I know the midpoint is -1 of my x, and that has to equal, do you guys see that I got just the x value, -1? That's got to equal x1 plus x2. Well, I know x1 is 1, I don't know x2. I don't know. Divided by 2. So I'm going to solve for x2. Don't panic yet, because I'm going to show you how to do it. How do I get rid of a fraction? How do I get rid of the 2 on the bottom? Multiply. So the opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. What's 2 times -1? -2 equals 1 plus x2, and then I still have to solve for x2. -1, -1. It's -2 minus 1. -3. So that's going to be my x2 coordinate. I still got to get the y's. Are you guys
How did you determine the x1? Oh.
right here from here?
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
So now my y value is 5. So y1 is 4 plus y2. I don't know y2 divided by 2. So I got to get rid of the 2 on the bottom. Multiply. What's 2 times 5? 10. 10 equals 4 plus y2. Still got to solve for y2. -4. What's 10 minus 4? 6. So I know my new point is -3, 6, which we just found by graphing a second ago. But do you want to do all this algebra? No. Okay. Basically, all we did is we took the midpoint times 2 every time. I times by 2, I times by 2. I took my midpoint times 2. And then I just subtracted my other endpoint. Like, watch. What is, if I take -1 times, or -1 comma 5 times 2, what's -1 times 2?
-2.
What's 5 times 2? 10. So I just took my midpoint times 2, and then subtract my endpoint. So I'm going to -1 comma 4. What's -2 minus 1?
-3.
-3. What's 10 minus 4?
6.
So, is that
So
an
we
easier
just-
way to do, yeah, is that easier than to show all this algebra?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, your trick is going to be to take the midpoint times 2
Okay.
and subtract the endpoint. Midpoint times 2, subtract the endpoint. So, let's practice another one and then we'll look at your assignment. So, midpoint times 2, subtract the endpoint. So this says the midpoint of xy is 4, -6. So that's my midpoint. So I take my 4, -6, and I have to times it by 2. Midpoint times 2. What's 4 times 2?
8.
8. What's -6 times 2? -12. So I got my midpoint times 2. And then you subtract your endpoint, -2, -3. What's 8 minus 2?
6.
6. Now be careful here. What's -12 minus a -3? -12 minus a -9. That's your answer. So is it easier to take midpoint times 2 and subtract the endpoint? Okay. So let's look at one. Let's find.
Question 7.
Go to number 7. Yeah. Number 7. Says P is the midpoint. So you got to pay attention to which letter is the midpoint. This says P is the midpoint. So that's the one you times by 2. So number 7, I'm going to go to P and I'm going to times it by 2. So 5 comma 2 times 2. So what's 5 times 2? 10. What's 2 times 2? 4. So you take your midpoint times by 2, and then do you remember what to do with the endpoint? Subtract it. 2 minus 0. Subtract the endpoint. What's 10 minus 2?
8.
4 minus 0? 4. Don't put any spaces in your answer. You'll do left parenthesis, 8 comma 4, right parenthesis. No spaces. It'll count it wrong. So look at the next one. So I've got to take P times 2. So what's 6 times 2? 12. What's 3 times 2?
6.
And then subtract your endpoint minus 5, 4. What's 12 minus 5?
7.
7, what's 6 minus 4?
2.
Don't put any spaces in your answer. Yes, question.
It's gonna seem like a stupid question, but what's the difference between a midpoint and an endpoint?
A midpoint and an endpoint?
Yeah.
That's not a stupid question. So, an endpoint, let's say this is the midpoint. That just means it's the point in the middle of 2 other points. These 2 points would be the endpoints. So the middle of that would be my midpoint. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So these are my endpoints. So I have one endpoint. I have to figure out where the other endpoint is to make M in the middle. Yeah. So not stupid at all.
That makes sense.
Okay, let me just, you want me to go ahead and just do this last one here?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Might as well. Now you
I know
do
what
have to be
mine-
careful with the negatives. Alright, P times 2, so what's negative 1 times 2?
-2,
5 times 2,
10,
and then subtract your endpoint minus 3, 9. So what's negative 2 minus 3?
-5.
-5. What's 10 minus 9? 1. Remember, no spaces in your answers. Okay. Those are the concepts for today. I think I have a joke. Oh, if you struggle with the midpoint, I've got that video there. Oh, so these are just numbers. He'd be nothing without her
Wow.
because he's a 0. He'd literally be nothing. Okay. Thank you for laughing. I appreciate it. All right, so this is your assignment today. We're going to do the same stuff tomorrow, and then Friday we're going to combine it all. Monday slope, Tuesday equations of lines, and then we'll review and quiz.
I love slow.
Do you guys remember?